I think we're all present. Mm,
Okay,
mm.
so if that's the case, I'm thinking we should instead continue where we stop so that it will not be like a repetition. Uh, Let me see. Okay, so we actually skipped module, right? And then we went straight to classes. So should we continue classes and just clear class before we come back to module, or we should just continue from start from the module?
I think let's since we did class, but
Yeah.
that time we were doing class, we were very cautious of time and all.
Mhm. Yeah.
So let's see how we can cover the classes and then the modules.
All
It will
right.
be better.
All right. No problem. That's good. So now I'll just undo so that I think this is where we stopped. And then since you people talked about code, let me, I think it's good I share the code, right? Okay. So mkdir. This one is ES6 advanced. So I'm going to create, should I say class.js, or copy all this code and then I paste it here. Yeah. And then I'm going to push it. All right. So beautiful. So I've pushed this code. So let's start right fresh, and then not really afresh but the class itself. So let's start afresh and see what we got. All right. So obviously we talked about classes, right? We started by talking about classes in JavaScript, and then we said classes are actually blueprint for creating objects. So with just a single class, we can create multiple objects that are in the same pattern with our class. All right. So, and we also say by doing that, we are also focusing on object oriented programming. So, the use of classes is actually known as OOP, that's object oriented programming. So, now let's try and do something much more better now, right? Let's look at, okay, in a situation where we want to deal, now this is what we want to do. All right, we want to create a class, a shape class, and in this shape class, of course, majority of the time you find out that shapes actually have sides. So let's deal with four-sided shape where we have the length and also the breadth. All right, and then in the behavior, of course, for four-sided shape, which could be a rectangle, could be a square, we can have a perimeter. Everybody knows what a perimeter is. That's when you sum all the sides of the shape. And we can also have a no, not radius. Radius for cycle. I'm sorry for that. We can have a perimeter. At the same time, we can have an area. That's area is when you are talking of the length and the breadth, right? So here we have class, of course, the keyword class, and then the class we are looking at shape. So this class will have a constructor. That's something we use to initiate or to initialize anytime we are creating an object using the class. So here now we are going to have constructor right? Now the constructor will take in, obviously, the length. We can say length and breadth, or we can say width, the width, and then the height. All right. So in this case now, of course, we have to bind both the width and the height with the class. So in this case, we have using this dot the width being the width, and then this dot the height being the height. So now let me make something. This width, right, is obviously the one coming from here, and this height is the one coming from here. This one here that is attached to this and this one attached to this, it must not be what is here. You understand? This one we are just doing it for uniformity sake. If I really want to, I can just use W for this and then use H for this. What it simply means is that anytime I want to use anything that have to do with width inside of this my class, I will always make use of this dot H, because that is what will now be carrying the value of width. And anytime I want to use my height, it will always be this dot H, because that's what is actually carrying the value of height. So the only one that needs to be exactly what is here is actually this one here, the value itself. But the variable in this case, you can use anything for it. You understand? But mostly you find, if you look at a code base, you find out that they are always the same. So that one is just for the sake of uniformity, for uniformity purpose and uniformity sake. All right. Okay. So thank God, Rufai too is here. So Rufai, we just decided to continue since I'm the one still taking the class, and I believe we're all here in the first class. That's morning class. So that's why we just decide to continue since we had a lot to cover. So we just decided to say, okay, let's just cover everything and see other things we can do instead of just doing it all over again. All right. So that's why, and then so that we have enough time for questions and then for trying out other things. Yeah. So all right. So now, of course, we said shape. Of course, for shape, we have a perimeter, and we also have an area. So for the perimeter now, we can say perimeter. Of course, a behavior, that's simply a function. All right. So if we call a perimeter, perimeter will simply be what? It should return this dot W plus this dot H. Of course, when you are talking of perimeter, it means the width that in the two places. We are dealing with four-sided shape. Perimeter will be the two length plus the two breadth, or the two width plus the two height. So here we can simply say 2 times this, 2 times the width plus 2 times the height. So who can tell us, why do I have to put this one inside his own bracket and this one also inside his own bracket? Why didn't I just leave them like this? Why didn't I just leave them the way they are like this? So who can help us? Why must I put this one in his bracket separate and also this one in a bracket separate?
Okay, maybe because we are using a mathematical operator, so we need to put them so that it can solve them differently.
Beautiful. Now, if you remember I think the first week, I think it should be the first or second class, I can't remember. You know that we had to now check board mass, right? Where we say programming or JavaScript, anything that has to do with mathematical expression in JavaScript, it follows the law of board mass. And then we looked at it in a situation where we were expecting a particular number and it was giving us another kind of number. Why? Because it was actually multiplying. It obeys multiplication before addition. You understand? So that's why we have to now put it into the bracket so that we will not have any kind of weird, like unexpected behavior. All right. So it's a good one. Thank you for that. So after perimeter, of course, another thing we have area. So area of a shape, of course, it will return the width times the height, or the height times the width. Anyone? Let me use semicolon here too. So you can see now we have created a class, right? Let me close so that so you can see that we have created a class here. What is the class? A class of shape having a constructor. Remember, constructor is always what you use to initialize it. Now, of course, every shape should have a width and a height, and that's why we are initiating it or initializing it with that using our constructor function. Now, just like I said, this width here and this height are your values. The value the constructor is expecting. Now, this dot, you can use anything here. What this one is doing is that you are taking that width you are getting from your constructor and binding it to the W that is now existing inside of this your class. The same thing with here. But we advise you to always use the same name here as well as here. But that does not mean that if you use a different name, it won't work. That's why you see in this particular scenario, I'm using different things. I'm using W here, whereas the value coming from here should remain width. Here I'm using H, whereas the value coming from here should remain height. So now, anything I'm using inside of this place, it's going to always be what is here, because this is what is carrying the value of these things inside of this class. So I've created a class. The next thing is for me to create my what? My instance. Of course, since I'm talking of shape here, it means anything I'm creating will be an instance of a shape. So the first shape I'm going to create here is going to be a rectangle, right? For a rectangle, now we are going to call this class. Now, in creating the instance of this class, what do we need? We need to use the new keyword and then the name of the class, shape. Now, next, looking at our constructor, it means the class is taking in two what? Parameters, width and height. So since it's a rectangle, of course, the width and the height are never the same. So I'm just going to give, maybe let me give it 9 and 6. All right. So now I've successfully created an instance of this shape, which in this case is a rectangle. So we can decide to check. Let me open this one and then let's console.log to confirm. Right? There's my okay. I was thinking it has lost. So now we have console.log rectangle. Now look at what we have. You can see our object here. It has created a shape object with a width of 9 and a height of 6. All right. So permit me, let me just change this one, width and then height. But irrespective, or let me just leave it. Of course, I've already explained to you, so you should understand. So now, let's say we want to now calculate the perimeter of this shape. Of course, the perimeter here is a behavior, that's a function. The area here too is a function, which is also known as a behavior. So to calculate the perimeter of this rectangle, is simply for me to just come and call the shape rectangle dot and then the name of the behavior perimeter. Of course, you can see here is giving me what? 30, because obviously we have 9 and 6. So looking at what is going to happen, it will be 2 times 9, which will give us 18. 2 times 6, which is give us 12. Then if you now do 18 plus 12, of course, you are going to get 30. Then next, let's calculate the area. So we have rectangle dot area. So now what are we having here? 54. Of course, width times height, 9 times 6 will give us 54. So this is a typical way of working with a class, and then from that class creating an object. Now we just created a rectangle. let's go ahead and now create a square, because square too is four-sided now. So we create a variable called square, and then we use the new shape to create an instance of the class, which is an object. So shape, of course, is a square. Square have the same length and the same breadth. So let's say the square is actually 6. So it's having a length of 6 and a width of 6, because obviously they should be the same. So now let's console.log. This is our square, to be sure. So where is it? Good. So you can see what we have here. The square we just created, having a width of 6 and also a height of 6. All right. Sorry, please. Let me use this one. Okay, sorry for the breakage in transmission. All right. So you can see our square now. Now let's now check. If we want to calculate the perimeter, of course, it will be the name of our shape, the shape we created, dot the behavior, which in this case is our perimeter. So of course, you can see it's 24, because 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2 times 6, 12. 12 plus 12, we have 24. All right. So the next, if we want to calculate the area now, we have square dot area, right? Now area will give you 36. Why? Area is length times breadth. Now in this case, our square is having a size of 6. So 6 times 6 will give us what? Will give us 36. So is there any question concerning this? Thank you.
So now the perimeter and the area, that you declared now.
Yeah.
Now when we want to, we are calling them. We are automatically calling them for them to work when calculating the square. That is the new shape.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You
So
understand?
instead of us to come here and be doing the calculation manually, now
Manually.
we've stored them there and now we are just calling them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Shall you understand?
Yeah.
So you see
Now I
how
understand.
so you see how important and useful these classes are. So imagine now we have we want to create a calculator. We can just decide to use a class, create a class calculator, define our addition, subtraction, multiplication, and then the only thing we just need to be doing anytime we want to calculate is just to create an instance and then just be calling them, something like that. So that is how useful classes are. So is there anybody still having problem understanding classes and then instance of a class? I believe it's clear now. All right. So let's go back to our material and
Yes,
then
sir.
okay.
Actually, I don't have a question, but I just want to ask whether you will still treat this thing on Saturday because I only have an hour. After an hour, I'm going to leave the call because I won't be charged because I'm at work.
Okay. Whether I'm going to treat
This thing again, maybe it's on Saturday or you. Or, okay, no, we
yes
can
on
watch the video.
Saturday. Yes, there'll be video one, and then on Saturday we'll be using it to build a project.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So be rest assured. All right. So already you have looked at class syntax. That's what we just did. Constructor, we know what constructor is, what methods are, and then properties. All right. So great. Okay. Now this is a property actually. I think I know I did not mention it, but these two are actually properties. You understand? This one in itself is actually a method. This one too is a method, but it's called a constructor method. So anything function are methods. While anything data, anything holding data is just data. Anything holding information is data. Yes, you can see it's properties actually. Anything holding data is properties. So creating instances of a class, we have looked at that already. All right. Good. Now let's look at class inheritance. Class inheritance. Now there are instances, most especially when dealing with classes. All right. There are instances where you want to create a general class. That's that class. Now you know that this particular class that I'm generating or creating, we have the general behavior. You get? And then you can decide to now create other classes under that class, like more like a subclass. Now that subclass will now inherit the behavior of the higher class. Okay, for instance, if you look at it, you know, we talked about shape. I can decide to create a shape class. Now that shape class is going to be the class that will take in our size. You understand? Then I can now decide to now create a cycle class, because you know a cycle class, like cycle only needs a pi, a constant pi, and a radius. In fact, it only needs a radius because pi is constant. A square only needs one size because all the sides are equal. A rectangle needs two sides. By the time we now come into things like pentagon, pentagon has 5 sides. By the time we come into things like triangle, triangle has 3 sides. By then we now come into things like trapezium. Despite the fact trapezium have 4 sides, but you agree with me that that 3 of the sides are different. 2 opposite sides which are the same, and then the other 2 opposite sides which are not the same. You understand? So instances like that, we can decide to say, no, we need to create a class for this one and then inherit from the main parent class. So let's look at this example of animals, right? So first of all, we'll create a class called animal. Of course, when you're talking of the animal class, every animal should have a name. All right. So we'll use a constructor that will take in a name. Of course, we need to bind this name to the class. So we have this dot name equal to name. Just like I've said, this name, that's the value, is what is here. This one can be anything, but this time for is better to maintain some level of uniformity. So I'm going to leave it this way. Now, of course, every animal makes a sound. All right. Every animal makes a sound. So for that reason, we can actually say sound or make sound, whichever name you feel is better, right? Make sound. And then for this one, we are going to console.log, right? We'll now say, okay, we'll say this dot name is, are you sure we're not taking name and sound? What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's take sound.
I'm
Name
thinking we
and
should.
sound.
I'm thinking we should make collect name and sound. Let me close this ahead. This is the one we are at. Yes. So I'm thinking. Okay. So name and sound, right? So name and then but if we now create sound, then what of, okay, let's leave name first. Let me figure out something. I'm trying to figure out something. Okay, name and sound. All right. This, so here now we are going to have this dot sound equal to sound, isn't it? So we say console.log, this dog is, then the name of the sound, of course, dollar, and then this dot sound. So we can now come and now create another class. So for instance, you can come and say class cat, and then this cat, because of course, obviously, every animal should have a name, including the cat. Every animal should have a sound, including the cat. So what we want to do is to create a class cat, but this class cat now should inherit anything that is in the animal. So that is where this keyword extend comes in. So they say to create a subclass, use the extend keyword, because why you see you are seeing they are calling it subclass is because for you to be able to inherit anything, it means you have to be a part of that thing you are inheriting, and that thing have to be under you. Yunus, you are welcome. I don't think Yunus was in our morning class. Or is he part of the sub mentor? Sorry.
It's a sub mentor.
Okay. So we are safe. We are safe. Well done, Yunus. All right. So now look at the word extend. So to create a subclass of something, you create the class using the keyword class, the name of the class, then extend the class you want it to do this thing. What are they calling it? The class you want it to inherit from. Are we getting it? So for this one now, where is my code? Okay, so for this cat now, we want cat to inherit from this class animal. So we'll say class cat extends what? Animal. All right, so it's extending from animal, and then we are going to have this. Of course, since it's extend is inheriting from the animal class, that means that we don't need to bring in our constructor. Why? We are expecting that it's going to use the constructor from the animal. So nothing like constructor here. Now we can now decide to say, okay, should we give it a behavior? Should we give it a behavior? Okay, so now let's say, let's give it the behavior, okay, number of legs, because different animals have different number of legs. All right, so here now let's say console.log. Of course, it has 4 number of legs, so we are printing out 4, right? So now at the back of your mind, put it that for using this extend, for extending animal, it means you are making cat to be a subclass of animal. It means cat is inheriting from class animal. So it means everything we are having here, cat too is having it. Now, how do we know? Now let's create an instance of a cat. So to create an instance of a cat now, we'll have const cat equal to, of course, use the keyword new, then the name of your class, cat. Now, we are calling instance of cat. Here, in our original cat class, we don't have a constructor. But in our animal class, which cat is extending, which cat is inheriting from, it has a constructor. And the constructor is what? Name and sound. So we have to put it here. So here now, I'm going to come. Now, which name should we give our cat? Let's give it Catty. For those that used to do Telegram tab game, right? And then sound, of course, we all know the sound that cats use. Is it meow or meon? Those that have cats or those that love cats. Lovers of cats, no one talk. Okay, oh voila. So now we have created an instance of a cat, more like a new object, right? So let's console log it and be sure. So now you see name, cat, catty, sound, meow. But look at, in our cat class, there's nothing like constructor. You understand? So this is one of the benefit of inheritance. Are we getting it? Now, for this make sound, remember I say cat is actually inheriting everything. So even this make sound, we can call make sound on this our cat that we just create. So let's try it and see. Now we have cat dot make sound. All right. And then what are we having? You can see catty is meown. Because look at this dot name is this dot sound. Of course, the cat name is catty and the sound name is meown. So this is how inheritance works. So is there any question?
Let me sound like my boss today, Rufai. And sir, please can you make a recap of inheritance?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems this animal, oh, it's too much. Plenty of us no love animal, no Allah. Let's use something else. So let's say, let's still go back to our shape and use our shape. All right. So I'm going to create a class shape, of course. And then this shape, I'll have a constructor. Now the constructor is going to take in size. Let's say size. Okay, width and height. Let me use width and height. All right. Or W and H self. Not suppose no na. Ma just they use short to save us trouble. So now, of course, we need to bind it first. Equal to W, and then this dot H equal to H. So of course, every shape should have area. Every shape should have perimeter. All right. So here we are going to have perimeter. So for this perimeter now, we are going to have what? We are going to have it returning what? 2 times this dot W, right? Plus 2 times this dot H. Now this is for perimeter. So we can check for area too. So we have area. And here is going to return this dot W multiplied by this dot H. Yes. So we have perimeter, we have area. So now we want to create a shape called rectangle. So we'll come here and then we say class rectangle. Now we want rectangle to inherit this class shape. Now it's just like this shape now is the oga patapata. Rectangle now is a boy on that shape. Of course, rectangle is on that shape. So we want to create another class rectangle, right? And then inherit shape. Want it to inherit from shape. So to inherit from shape now, we'll use the word extends. So this word now extends, then followed by the class we want rectangle to inherit from. The class name is shape. And then here, of course, I already have a constructor here, isn't it? For rectangle now, I don't even need to put anything here. I don't even need to put anything here. So look at this one. It means everything you are seeing here inside shape here is also applicable to rectangle here. Every single thing. So in that case, I can now come here and now say, okay, let me create an object from my class rectangle. That's more like create an instance of rectangle. So I have const rect. Let me use the short form rect equal to. Of course, you use the new keyword. You use rectangle. Yes, rectangle. And then remember, here, rectangle is empty here. Look at, we have not even put anything. It's just empty. But by extension, by using our extend shape, we are saying rectangle is inheriting every single code inside of shape, including constructor. So it means for us to be able to create a rectangle here, we need to pass in 2 values, width and height. So now we are going to give it, let's say probably, let's use 7 and 3, right? So here, let's now confirm whether we are able to create an instance of rectangle or not. So we console.log. Console.log what? Rect. So now look at, were we able to create an instance of the rectangle? Yes. As you can see, our width 7, our height 3. And also, if you look at this rectangle, has two methods. It has perimeter and it has area. So from what we have here, we can actually still access the behaviors or the method in this particular shape from the rectangle. Now let's try it and see. So our instance of the rectangle is rect. Now to access any of these two, we use dot, then perimeter. Let's start with perimeter first. So you can see we have 20. How? We have 7 and 3. So by calling perimeter, what we want is that 2 times the width, which is 7, 2 times 7, we have 14. Then 2 times the breadth, which is 3, 2 times 3, we have 6. So 7, sorry, what am I saying? 2 times 7, sorry, is 14. 2 times 3 is 6. So 14 plus 6 will give us 20. And then we can also calculate the area using rect.area, right? We'll call the area, look at it here. Now the area will multiply the width by the height. Now the width is what? 7. The height is what? 3. So 7 times 3, of course, we'll have 21. So any question? All right. All right. So let's go back to our material. So we're able to look at inheritance, what it is. All right. Let's look at super, right? So it says in a subclass, you can call the constructor or methods of the parent class using super. This is useful for extending functionality while preserving the same behavior. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What do they mean here? I'm waiting on.
Okay, you can call the constructor or methods of the parent class using super. Now it is like the inheritance too. You know, in the inheritance class, yes, you use extend.
Okay.
So this one too, maybe you use the parent class. For example, that animal we used, and this
Yes.
one the shape
Yes.
for shape. So now the parent class is what the shape now.
Okay.
Now anything that you want to inherit from
Yes.
the shape, you use the keyword super. Something like this.
Okay. Beautiful. So now looking at what we have here. All right. If like this is our this our rectangle is empty at the moment. All right, is empty. Why? Because we are not actually coding anything inside of it. Now I want us to create a cycle. We'll create a cycle, we'll create a rectangle. Now hope you know a cycle does not make use of a width and a height. Does anybody agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to say class cycle. Of course, the cycle should inherit from what? From shape,
Sure.
isn't it? Looking at cycle only needs a radius. So it means we can't use the same constructor we are using here for cycle. So in this our cycle own, we can actually create our own constructor that we want. And then of course, what we need is radius. We don't need pi. Pi is a constant. So we need radius, right? Of course, we have to bind the radius with our cycle class. Now, let's say peradventure Paraventure, although in this case we don't need it to, but I'm just saying, let's say paraventure, we still need these values. We want these values to still be present. Are you getting it? We want this value to still be accessible to cycle. That's in creating cycle, we are still going to pass in what we have here. Oh, no. What can I use as an example? This one is not giving me what I want. Can we use that of animal, the example of animal, or the example of
Yeah,
student?
sure.
Okay.
Animal. Let's use
Okay.
that.
Okay, good, because this one will not give me what I want. But let's finish up this one before we go back to super. Let's just finish up this one. So why are we doing another constructor for cycle? It's because cycle does not obey this law here. Cycle does not have a width, does not have a height. What it has is a radius. That's why we have to define its own constructor. And so because of that, we also have to design its own area and its own, of course, the perimeter of a cycle is called circumference. Hope you know. So now for circumference of a cycle, right, is going to be what? Is going to return pi 2 pi r, right? So we have 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by our r. Now our r is this radius, which is the what? This dot radius. Permit me to use this dot r. No, let me just use the radius like that. This dot radius. Now this pi, we have not defined it. So permit me to define it here. So const pi, because I'm not expecting anything to change the value, is a constant 3.142. All right. So what are they saying? Unexpected token 21.8. Oh, okay. What is he reading? Unexpected token. All right. So let me try this and see. I'm not sure. Did it work? It still did not work. Okay, no problem. What I'm going to do, let me initialize it. Okay, sorry. Let me initialize it inside my constructor. This dot pi, and permit me to initialize it. So 3.142. I don't think we should have an issue initializing it here. So here, of course, I have to call this dot pi. Yes. So I think we can leave it this way. Yes. So this is for the circumference. Now for the area.
So in the constructor, you need to put pi too, since there is radius.
Okay, where?
Radius on that
Okay,
class.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what is happening here actually, you understand?
Yeah.
Since the pi is a constant, I'm
Yeah.
just giving the value of pi directly.
Okay.
I told you whatsoever is here, like this one now, the value is going to get here as radius will be the value we are passing inside of it when we are creating our cycle. But this one now is a constant, so I just gave it the value straight up. You understand? So area now, of course, we know area now of a cycle. It says 2 is pi r square, right? So we have pi times this dot radius raised to the power of 2. Or you can say this dot radius times another this dot radius, still the same thing, times this dot radius. All right. So now, looking at what we have, cycle is extending shape. But mind you, when it comes to inheritance, there's what they call, not scale of preference in this case, but I'll just use the English scale of preference to explain it. Now, what does it mean? If anything I'm doing here, if I want to create this cycle now, it's going to make use of the constructor of the cycle. Why? Because the cycle has its own constructor. So this is what it will prioritize over that of this shape. If what I want to calculate is the area, it's going to prioritize the area that is being given inside of the cycle class than the area from the class cycle is inheriting from. So it's more like e go first check for my own. If my own get am, e go use my own. If my own no get am, na im go look for papa own use. So that is how it works. So now let's create a cycle, the instance of a cycle. So we have const cycle, and then of course we use our new keyword, name of our class, cycle. Our cycle is what? Is okay. So you see what it's telling us? Must call super constructor in derived class before accessing this or returning from derived class. Okay. So it means that we have to call in this dot super here, just like what happened here. Where is it? Sorry. So just like what happened here, it means we have to still bring in this one from this place, right? So no problem. So here now we are going to have super. Now, so should it? We don't need any of this. We don't need the width. We don't need the height. So let's just, where is it? Let's just leave the super like this. So now we have created the new instance of a cycle, right? Of course, that of a cycle is only collect radius. And that's why here when we're creating it, we actually just give it radius, right? Of 7. Now, let's now check if this our cycle have been created. So what should we use? We use console.log and then the name of our cycle. So let's confirm and see. So you can see that our cycle have been created. But you can see because we are inheriting, right? And since we are inheriting, we have to bring in the constructor, the this thing, details of the constructor here. We have to bring it here. And how do we bring it? We have to bring it using what? Our super. But in this case, why you see I did not give the super anything, I did not like enter anything here, is because of we are not needing it in the case of this cycle. It's just for us to overcome that error. If not, if we don't do this, let me show you. If I comment it out, we always have this error. So that's why you see I'm putting it, the super. So that's why you see for W and H, which is inheriting for this one, is empty here, undefined. There's no value. The only value we have here is our pi because that's what we need. All right. But let's say, for instance, now I made it in such a way. Where is this thing? Where is it? Okay, I made it in such a way to create our cycle, we need to give it radius, we need to give it width and height. In this case now, I can come here and add my width and height. So in the creation of this, I can give it radius, width, and height. So in that case, I'm going to have all the parameters available to me. You can see width, you can see height. So, but here in this my constructor, you can see that what I just called is super. So what this super will do is automatically come here, check. You see that the two data here that I have, or the two properties here that I have, is width and height. And then of course that's what I'm supplying it here, the width and the height. And then in the creation, I'm also supplying it here for it to make use of. So, but let me undo that because we don't really need that. So now I want to calculate the circumference of this my cycle. How can I do that? Of course, the name of my instance cycle dot the name of the function or the behavior circumference. You can see the circumference is 43.988. Now, if I want to calculate the area also, I'll just call the name of my instance dot and then the name of my this thing, my behavior, and then where is it? Okay, pi is not defined. How? Oh, sorry, you see, I did not add this. So this dot pi, and then you can see it's giving me the area of my shape. So this is how you can, and if we are talking of square, we can also use square, right? But you know, square, what we are expecting for a square is that all sides should be the same for a square, unlike rectangle, that one side is bigger than another side. So in the case of a square, we can decide to come here and then we say we'll create a square class. So we can say class square, of course, extends shape. Now, in extending shape, remember, square uses what? it uses just a single this thing size. It doesn't make use of two size. It uses just a single size. So here we can create a constructor and then just give it one parameter size, because all the sides in a this thing are equal, right? And then here we just call super, and then for this super now that we call, we'll give it a height, a width, right? And also a height. We'll call width and height. Now here, instead of giving it width and height, all we are going to give it size and size. Now I don't know, does anybody know what I just did here? Do you understand what I just did here? Okay, let me explain. I'm creating a square class, and then square class is inheriting from shape. I'm creating a constructor for square. Why am I creating a constructor for square? Because unlike rectangle that has different length and breadth, or width and height, a square does not have different length or breadth, nor width and height. All the sides are equal. So I just need to enter just one of the side to be able to do anything I want to do. Now, of course, since I'm inheriting from my shape, I need to call super inside of my constructor class of my square, so that it's going to be able to bring in these two values for me. Now, this super automatically will provide me the space to enter these two values. And the values are what? My width and my height. So on coming here, of course, my width and my height should be the same thing. So by entering super size, what I'm trying to say is that the width is the same, the height is the same. So that is what I just did here. So now in this case, of course, my area, in fact, I don't even need to do area, because the area is the same thing. That's for the shape. You know, the shape, the perimeter is 2 times length and height, or width and height, width times height. For that of square, to simply be 2 times the size plus 2 times the size is the same thing. Or let's just define the perimeter. It will be 4 times the size, because the size is the same. Perimeter of our square. So it's going to return 4 times this dot size. Right? Okay. And then area, we don't need to define area, because this area is perfect. The area of the shape is actually perfect. Width times height. In the case of square, it's going to be length times length, or size times size. Even this one, we don't really need to define its own perimeter. This of the shape will be perfect also for it. You understand? So we don't even need this one. Let me even take it off first. So this is just what we need. So since we have done this, now let's create an instance of our square class. So we'll come here, we say const square. I hope I've not created square before. Rectangle, okay, I've not. So square, and then new, then our class square. Of course, from the design, we need to give it a number. Let's say our square is size of, let's say 12. All right, now let's check whether we are able to create our square. So let's console log it. Console.log square. Now look at it. You can see that we have created an instance of our square, and then we are trying to check if it has been created. And here we now find out that yes, it has been created with a width of 12 and a height of 12. So now let's find the perimeter. So we'll say the instance of the square we have created dot our perimeter. So what did it give us? 48. Obviously, for square, it will be the addition of all the 4 sides. So if you do 12 plus 12, it will give you 24. If you do 24 plus 12, it will give you 36. If you do 36 plus 12, it will give you 48. Then let's check for the area. So we'll do the instance of our square dot area. Now, what do we have? of course, area will be size times size for a square. So length times length, 12 times 12 is giving us 144. So, like, is there or are there any question? It seems network is having issues. You are far now.
Fine, sir.
I don't understand. You be like say network. All of them just drop off the call.
Uh,
So check out now. Not
me, I
me
don't
and you they call.
me, I don't post link, ne? I don't join to post link.
Okay. Like I don't know. All of
Like
them just.
now one after the other, be now one by one.
It seems now one after the other.
More. Mostly wait, mostly wait.
No wahala now.
More this light issue really cost a lot to as well.
Done.
This light issue. But I check their attendance for afternoon. Nah, they
Yeah.
plenty well. For morning, that morning section, they plenty well. Now eight.
Yes. Yeah.
Na eight. So I believe say afternoon, people like they like chilling.
Aisha, you're welcome. So Aisha, were you among those that joined in the morning, or you are just joining now? Okay, Yunus, please, do you know what the problem is? I see that like some of them just dropped off the call. I don't know if it's network or is any of them saying anything
Yeah,
on the Discord.
I think the problem is due to like electricity. Everyone is. I think the grid collapsed again, from what I'm hearing.
Ah, that's it.
But I would suggest that you can just continue with what you have already scheduled for the day, because they're actually watching the recorded session. So I think let's just continue. Like, just do it any the way you can and finish your slide. Then we should call it a day.
No problem. I think that's what I'm going to do
Yeah, Aisha is back now. Someone is back.
so much. I think that's what I'm going to
Yeah, Aisha is on the call now.
do. Okay. Okay. So it seems she has left though.
Okay, just let's continue.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So this is how you actually make use of your instance and also make use of your super keywords to bring in the construct of the parent class into subclass. All right. Please, Yunus, can you use from your own end? Sorry.
You are saying something?
I say, can you mute from your own end? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So now we are going to look at getters and setters. All right. So classes can have getters and setters for accessing and modifying properties. These allow you to define methods that behave like properties, providing controlled access to private variables. So now these getters and setters, all right, how they work is that anytime you make use of your get from the word get is just to access something. You understand? Why set is actually to modify something. You understand? So now let's say for instance we have a rectangle, right? We have a class rectangle, and then in our class rectangle, of course, we use our constructor to take in the initial width and height. Now for this, we are going to use the this keyword to bind the width value and also to bind the height value. So next, let's say now we want to calculate the area as well as the perimeter. We can actually just use the get method. So of course, we use get area, and then this area should return for us this dot width times this dot height, right? Now next, we can also decide to calculate the circumference, which we are going to be using get. So we do get perimeter, right? Now get perimeter, and then we are going to return 2 times our this dot width, and also we'll add 2 times our this dot height. So now this for the get. The get is just simply just to get the value of something. It doesn't modify the value. Now in a situation where we want to modify, change the value of what is inside of this class, that's class rectangle, what we are going to do here is to make use of the set. So in this case, we can say set, we say new size, right? We want to give it a new size, and then this new size, we are giving it a new width and a new height, right? So it will take in width and height. So what this one means is that in setting in our new size function is going to take in 2 parameters, which is the width and the height. So in that case now, we are going to have the this dot width to be equal to our new width. Our new width will definitely come from the parameter itself, which is this. So here now we are setting the value of width that is existing inside of this rectangle, or that is attached to this rectangle. Now we are actually updating it here, and then obviously the same thing with the height. So we have this dot height, and then we are updating the value of height as well. So this is how to make use of the get and the set. So the get is just to return a particular value. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the state of your object. But the set now changes the state of the object, as you can see here. So we can even try it and see. First, let's create an instance of our object. So we'll say rect, and then we'll call the shape using new rectangle, isn't it? Now for this rectangle, from the constructor, we need the width and the height, isn't it? So now for the width, we can decide to give it 9, and then for the height, we can decide to give it 5. All right. So now let's check if this the object we just create, which is the rect, let's check if actually it has been created. So how do we check? We use a console.log, we log it out. So now you can see that the object is created successfully, a rectangle having a width of 9 and a height of 5. So in that case now, we can decide to call our get function, which of course in this case it will be the area and the perimeter. So we'll say our rect, which is the instance dot perimeter, and then you can see, okay, rect dot perimeter is not a function. Okay, good. So you can see rect dot perimeter, you can see what we are having, the perimeter of the rectangle, which is 28. We can do the same with the area. So rect dot area, and then we have 45, which is 9 times 5 is 45. All right. So now let's say now we want to change the dimension of this rectangle. We just need to make use of this function here, new size. All right. So here we'll now come and say rect dot new size. And then the new size, of course, if you look at it, we are passing in an object. We are bringing an object. So we'll give it a width. In this case, we'll change it to 10 and 6. All right. So what are we having? Unexpected token. Why are we having this? It's not supposed to. Okay. So let's confirm from what we have in the material. Okay. I see where the issue is coming from. Right. Okay. Oh, sorry. So okay, this is where the issue is coming from. All right. So react.new size, it's going to be equal to, actually not so equal to is that not what is there? Okay, is an object, so it should have the name of the keys, which is the width and the height. Yes. So here we are going to have the width as the key, and then also here we have the height as the key. All right. So here I'm going to remove this bracket. It's not necessary in this case. Yeah. So now what we have successfully done is this instance that originally have a height, a width of 9 and a height of 5. We have successfully used the set function, which of course, look at it, set new size, and then this set, now we are bringing in a new width and height, and then we are setting the width of the instance. You can see this is actually pointing at the width of the instance, and here this is pointing at the height of the instance. We're actually like giving it a new width and a new height. That's the width and height that will be bringing in inside of this new size. So coming here, of course, we have our instance already created with 9 and 5, but here we are now changing the size using the function new size, because that's the name of our own function. So using new size equal to, now we are giving it a width of 10 and a height of 6. So now let's now calculate the perimeter to see if the changes have actually occurred, or we can even console.log the rect first to confirm. So if you look at console.logging the rec, now look at it here. What we have is 10 and 6. Formerly, look at what it is. Look at it here. Formerly, it was 5 and 9 and 5. But because of this change we have done now here, using this our set function, look at it. We are now having rec to be having 10 and 6. So of course, if we find the perimeter, so we have rec dot perimeter. Look, then if we do rect dot area, so look at it now, perimeter is now 32. Of course, when you do 10 times 2 is 20, 6 times 2 is 12, 20 plus 12 should give you 32. And then when we do area, 10 times 60, 10 times 6, sorry, it will give us 60, which is the area. So this is how the set and the get function works. So these are, they work hand in hand. All right. So so that's getters and setters. Yes. So now the main advantage of this is the fact that nobody can actually access a variable directly, something of that nature. So that's one of the use, just to control, because in your programming there's what they call private, public, and then the other one I've even forgotten. So let's look at static methods and properties. Now, if you are talking about static, just like how your set and get, of course, you always, before this thing, you always use either get or set before the name of your function, right? It's the same thing with this static too. So you always put it, and you can either have a static property or a static method. Of course, you know what property is. And that's when you just have a variable and a value. In this case, it's called a property. Why method? Of course, function. You understand? So static method and properties belong to the class itself. Have you seen it? Not to any specific instance. they are called on the class, not on object created from the class, which makes them useful for utility functions or shared data, right? So what they are trying to say now is, unlike this one we have been using, you can see, I've explained that this is a property. This is a property. This is a method. Now, if you look at closely to this property belongs to your instance, and that's why you are seeing this keyword is binding it with the instance you are creating. But for static now, both your static property and static method, it does not belong to the instance you are creating. It actually belongs to the class itself and not the instance. So here now we can have, let me push this code first. So we have class, okay, vim rectangle class.js. No. So hope is complete. Okay, I've deleted something. So I've pushed the code. So let's try this one now. So let's say we have a class of student, all right, and then these students now, let's say what we want to check. Remember, they say static properties and method is for the class itself, not the student. So let's say what we want to do is that we want to be able to keep the number of times our class method is being called. All right, that's what we want to do. So here we can now say, okay, static count will be equal to 0. Of course, it should be initialized to 0. That's, you are starting an account from 0. Obviously, every count should start from 0. All right. So now I just want to show you how static variable and method are very important, because they belong to the class, not the instance. So it means that even if you create a new instance, they'll still keep on doing their work as a class. All right. So now then we'll create a constructor function. Of course, we'll say the constructor should take the name, age, and then email of the student. All right. And then here we can now do our binding. This dot name, this dot age, you give us age, and then this dot email to give us our email, isn't it? Now I want it in such a way, any instance of our class that is being created, this our count should increment by 1. So in that case, in the constructor here, I'm going to have my count plus plus. So of course we are aware of plus plus. Plus plus simply means add 1 to count. So here now, I'm now going to create a method that will be able to give me the value of my count. So I'll say static, like number of students. Let me use stu or st. So number of students, and then what I want it to do is to return count. So it means this method belongs to the class and not the instance. So as I create an instance of student, here, the first thing that will be initialized is your constructor. So far the constructor is being initialized, my count is going to be increased by 1. And since the count belongs to the class itself, student, the more instance I create, the more it will keep on adding 1. And then this function too belongs to the class itself. So, and I'm telling this function that belongs to the class because once you use static, it means it's something that belongs to the class. What you should do, you should return that variable count for me that belongs to the class, because I want to always keep track of how many students we have actually registered. All right. So, and then probably I will say here, let me just create a normal function. I'll use the get method. All right. I'll say get info. Info. Yes. Let me just use get info. So this get info now, it will console.log. So my name is, then the name of the student, this dot name, and I am, of course, the age, this dot age, years old. All right, full stop. So now the first thing I need to do is to create an instance of my student. So coming here, I'm going to have const student equal to new, the keyword new, student, right? Now, of course, student from our constructor, we need to initialize it with name, age, and email. So name now, I'm going to give it Java, or no, let me say Yunus, right? Let's say Sir Yunus. Then age, let me say 45, and then the email, let me say Yunus at st dot, okay, no, not ft this time, v mentor, yes, dot Yunus at mentor dot fitech, yeah, dot com, right? Okay, so this is it. And then let's check. Okay, sorry, this should be a string, right? This should be a string. So now we are going to console.log the instance, this instance, right? And then what do we have? Okay, count is not defined. These guys want us to define count. Mm, 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 mm. I don't think this should be used for count. Is there anything we are missing? Is there anything? Okay. Okay. Let me remove it in the constructor. But it should supposed to work now. It's supposed to work. Okay. It's supposed to work. I still don't know why. Okay, no problem. Let me just create another method. So let me name it increment, just like what we have in our material. And then this increment now will help me to increase my number of count. Yes. So why this one will give me back my number of count. All right. Yes. So let's do it this way. Now my student have been created, name, age, and email. All right. So now let's check. Let's check this method, or let's start with this increment. So it means if we call this function, this static function, what we are expecting it to do is to add 1 to the number of counts we have. All right. So if we say student, that's the instance, sorry, dot, okay. Now we're seeing something. You see that this increment that is static is not available to this instance. Now this is the instance, but then the only thing available to the instance is this normal get method. But this static method, remember we said the static method does not belong to the instance of the class. It belongs to the class itself. So how then can we make use of this one? this increment and this number of students, or in this case, let's just change it to number of counts. Yeah, so count, number of counts would be better, because look at it, student dot, even if you say increment, increment, right? Look at student dot increment is not a function. Even if we remove these two, let's see. Okay, all right, is this info? No, this increment. Now let's check if this one is going to actually give us our number of count. So student dot get count, I think that's okay, number of count, not get count. So let me use dot number of count. Now you can see, so it means that these two, increment and number of counts, which both are static method, is not for the instance, is for the class itself. So how can we then use this kind of methods and properties that are meant for the class and not the instance? The only one meant for the instance here, what we have here as info, right? So which here now we can just call it student.info. So calling it student.info now, of course, we are using get, so we'll exclude these two. So when we do student.info, you can see what we have. My name is Sir Yunus and I'm 45 years old. All right. So let's see what we have here and how it's being called. So you can see that because it belongs to the class itself, if we want to call it, we have to call it with the name of the class and not the instance. For this one, it belongs to the instance. All get and set functions belong to the instance. All normal methods belongs to the instance. But static methods, which is these two, or static properties belong to what? The class. So to be able to use this 1, 2, and 3, what we just need to do is to call the class. Now, what is the class? Is student, but in capital letter. Then here, dot. You can see now, once we put dot, you can see everything that is available to it. You can see the count itself, you can see the increment, and you can see the number of count. So, of course, if I call count here, what I'm expecting that is going to happen, okay, I think I just need to call it like this, yes. So, and there will not be any error. So, what I'm expecting it to do by calling this count is to return the value of this, my variable here. So that's why I see here is returning 0. Now, if I want to increase the count, I'm supposed to call this function. So I'll call this function. I'll say my instance student dot increment. All right. So of course it's a function. So I'll call it using a function. Now, by calling this increment, what I'm expecting is it for it to trigger this function. And triggering this function is going to add 1 to the number of count. So now let me call my count property again and see what I'm going to have. Okay, count is not defined. Now look at these people who are funny. Let me remove this one first. Count is not defined. How did I remove anything? Look at it now. Static count. Student dot count. What is happening here? Okay, let me take this off. It's giving me value of count. So why is this? Okay, no problem. So let me call the function to get number of count instead. So I'll copy this name of this function and then I'll call it here. So let me see if it works. Count is not defined. That's serious. No problem. So let's. Okay, somebody wants
Yes,
to
sir.
say something.
No,
Okay.
actually,
Go
I
on.
said try and go back to that your format. I think you are missing something.
Okay, this one.
In the example you did in your slide, try and check it very well. I think you are missing
Okay, okay,
something.
okay, okay. It's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So here, okay, where is it? So to access this one now, actually, I need to call it together with the class. So I'll have student dot count to be able to access it, and this one too, student dot count. Yes. So just like how this one too, we need to use this. This is for the instance, but this static now is for the class itself. So of course, to access this thing of the class, I need to call the student or the name of the class as well. So I think that's what I'm missing. So here now, increment should add 1, which we have here, and then this number of count should display, or instead of number of count self, number of count does not. Let me just use get count. So here I'll just use get count, makes more sense. 1. So if I come and call this function here again, increment count, it should add 1 more, making it 2. Increment count, it should add 1 more, making it 3, making it 4. So here I can now come and get my count. So getting my count now, I'm having 4. Why? Because I've added 1, 2, and 3 to the existing 1, which will now give me total of 4. So any question on static methods and properties? Is there any question on that? Okay. So just put it at the back of your mind, right? All right, put it at the back of your mind that we have static methods and properties. Now, anything static, be it for a method or be it for a property, is for the class itself. So if you are calling it anywhere, you have to call it with the name of the class. Anything getter, setters, that one is for your instance, right? Anything this is for your instance. Anything super is for your instance. That's for inheritance, well, still for your instance. Anything getter setter for your instance too. So put that at the back of your mind. And then let's look at private fields and methods. All right. So JavaScript classes also support private fields and methods. Now, one thing you should know about private fields in JavaScript is that you use it to like indicate what should not be revealed in your code, right? That's what should not be accessible outside of your class, what anyone cannot access. Once it's outside of the class is being created, that person should not be able to access it. So that is what private fields works with. Now, for languages like JavaScript, is not strict. It's not strict in the sense that for the fact that I use hash, right? Okay, let me see. Okay, I think that's serious. Oh, this looks new. So it means that it's actually strict from what I'm seeing here. It's looking as though that it's strict. So if you look at this example we have here, you find out that this is a method, but then they are using hash at the beginning of the method. By using hash at the beginning of the method, they are trying to say, okay, we want to make this method private. And what it means is nobody should be able to access check balance, right, outside of our method. That's what it simply means. Anybody can deposit, because look at the deposit function is not actually a private function, right? That's why your account now, if you look at your account, structure of your account, anybody can go and deposit money in your account. You can send your account number to anybody and the person will be able to send money to the account. But by giving your account number to anybody, the person cannot check your account balance. He can't do that. It's not possible from his own end. The only thing it can do with that account number is to actually send money to you. So that is the use of these private fields. So what it does is that it protects that whatsoever function you put or whatsoever property you put as private, right, field, or as private method, that person will not be able to access it. So that's one beauty of the whole private field. So let's use this one as an example. So you can see bank account. Of course, every bank account has a balance. Every bank account has an owner. All right. And then, of course, your bank account, you can either choose to check your balance or to deposit. Of course, you also have withdraw. And if we are to have withdraw here, it means that what we are going to have as withdraw is going to be a private function too. And because anybody that, if you are not the owner of the account, you should not be able to withdraw from the account. Unless maybe the person gives you access through probably his ATM card or his bank draft or any other form like that. So let's emulate this example and see what we have. So coming here, we'll have class bank account, right? And then in this bank account, of course, we say every bank account has a balance. And here, since we say we don't want anybody outside to be able to access the balance, so we'll just use an hash. Different languages have different ways, right? For Python, I think they use what are they even using? They use double underscore, either double or single underscore. I can't remember. So, but JavaScript is hash. So now we say hash balance. Let me use small letter balance to be equal to 0. All right. So of course, every account should have an owner. So in creating an account, every account should have an owner, right? And then we are going to bind this owner with whichever thing we'll be getting as our owner. So we are binding this to the account itself. So first, we need a method that can check account balance. But now we don't want anybody that is not the owner of this account to be able to check the balance. So we have to make the method a private method. So now we are going to now put hash, then check balance. So this check balance now, of course, is a method. And what should it do? It should return the balance for us. So we want it to return, of course, balance is, and then our, where is it? Dollar. So this one now, it will be this dot balance. So that's what is returning. Then the next one, we have deposit function. So deposit, right? Now our deposit function is going to do what? It's going to add to what is here. So since we are depositing, of course, our deposit function should have a parameter. So that parameter is more like the amount we want to now put inside of the account. So let's say amount, right? And then here we'll now say, of course, we can't just add the amount because somebody can go and put a negative. What if somebody now come and put a negative number? What are we going to do? We will not have a choice. All right. So in this case, we have to check the amount. We say if amount is less than or equal to 0, what should you do? We just return. So it means the function will not work. Once anything that is put here, once is less than or equal to 0, there's no point. You should just return it. Else, all right, what should you do? Else, what you should do is to add the amount to this balance, isn't it? So we have this dot our balance plus equal to what? The amount. So does anybody have issue with what we just did here using the if and else logic? Does anyone? Okay. So let's now create an instance of this our class, which is what? Bank account. So const, let's say this bank account now, let's say it's for Ayo. So const Ayo, and then we'll create, of course, using the new keyword, then bank account. So what will now be the owner of the account? Of course, owner of the account is going to be Ayo Mide, right? So let's confirm if this instance of our class have been created. So I'm going to console.log Ayo. So of course you can see here bank account name or owner is Ayo Mide. So let's now see if we can able to, if there's a way we can actually deposit money in this account, of course. So we have Ayo, that's the instance dot deposit. So you can see that once I put in dot, it's only deposit that is available to me. That's me that I'm operating outside of this function. You understand? So Ayo dot deposit, and then let me put in let's say 255. And let's say our money is in dollar, not naira, 255. So let's now say want to now try and assess this balance. Let's see if it's going to work. So we have Ayo dot balance. So you can see we are unable to access the balance. Look at, nothing is showing. Whereas look at, and even if you decide to say you want to add this asterisk, right, it will throw you an error. So now who can now tell me, can we do anything in this code in that we will be able to get the balance of Ayo? So developers, engineers, over to you. Is there anything we can do? These are Jetro is laughing. Jetro, don't run. Okay, good. So now we can decide to create another function. Now what this function is going to do, I don't want to overcomplicate this. So I'll just do it simple. So I'm going to create another check balance function that we can call normally from the outside. All right, because even this check balance, we can call it from the outside. Look at, let's even try it and see. Check balance. Are you seeing it? You can call it from the outside. So now our goal is that, okay, let's say our goal now is, okay, now anybody outside can check the balance, but nobody outside can actually change the balance unless the person is actually depositing. Once you are not depositing, there's no way you can actually change the balance. So in this case, we can remove this hash from the check balance. And then removing that hash now, we automatically convert this one to a normal function. It's no longer a private function. So now we can now call check balance on Ayo. Of course, it's a function. So, and then you can see it will return the balance for us. Balance is 255. You understand? So this is how you can actually use a normal function to be able to get the private private property of a class. That's why the fact is private, but we're able to use a public function to get the exact value of it. So you can see that's the only money that we're able to deposit. Let's say now somebody come again and the person deposit another money. Let's say this time around he deposited like $60, isn't it? Now to check the balance is just for us to call check balance, and then you see, of course, 255 plus 60 will give you 315. So the balance of Ayo is now 315. So is there any question concerning private function and private fields? And if we like, you know, this one was private before. I can decide to now create another function, a public function, that what is going to help me do is that it's going to help me call this private function. So in that case, what I'm going to have here is my check, sorry, this dot check balance. So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating a public function that when I call it, I want it to invoke this private function. So in this case now, here, what I'm going to do, because this one will no longer work, your check balance will no longer work. So in this case, what is going to work is actually check. Is it check I used here? Yeah, it's check that I used. Sorry, you should return it. It's not returning it. So you can see it. Balance is 315. So I can decide to hide this method from the outside world. That's hide how I'm using to check, because this is the main function that is giving me my balance. I can decide to say, no, I don't want anybody to know how I'm returning this balance. I just want them to see the balance. So in this case, that's why you see I'm now creating a normal check that the only thing this one does is just to return the called function, or the called private function check balance. So it just depends on, everything just depends on your code organization, how you want your code to be and all of that. And even if you have coded it in one way, you can still always go back. That's why you always hear of things like refactoring. You can always refactor your code. You can always put it like, go back, change it to suit your purpose, or how you want it to behave at that particular point in time. So any question?
So I
Yes.
have a question.
Okay, please go on.
Please, functions and methods.
Yes.
I've been noticing, I've been taking cognizance that we use this interchangeably. So
Yes.
is there any difference between what a function is and what a method is? Or
Beautiful.
can we use functions as methods and methods as functions? Because I've been taking cognizance, sometimes we use it as a function, sometimes we use it as a method. So
Method.
yes.
You're actually right. So now, speaking from the code itself, they are basically the same thing, but in a way, they are different. In function, they are the same. In where to use and when to use, they are different. So if I say a function, right? Okay, let's just do something briefly. What is a function? Okay, function add x, y, right? And then here I say return x plus y, isn't it? Now come here and just call my function 2 and 5. This is a function. Now if you observe, right, I don't want to ask you the question now, because I want you by yourself to look at the difference between them. So this is a function. Now let's look at method. All right, so I'll come here, class calculate, all right, and then constructor. So let's say constructor x and y, of course. And then here I'll say this dot x, I want to bind it to x, and then this dot y, I want to bind it to y, isn't it? And then here now I'll now say add. All right, of course I'm going to even give it, let's say a and b, right? And then what am I adding? Of course I'm adding return a plus b. Now look at, I want to call this add function. This is a function, because see, the only difference with this one is that this one we added the name function. This one we did not add the name function, but this is also a function. So, but I want to call this add now. how can I call this add? All right. So here, I'm going to say, to call this add, there are two things involved. Either as it is now, I have to first create an instance of calculate, because what we have here is a class. So I'll call an instance of calculate. I'll create an instance of calculate using my new and then calculate class. Of course, it takes in a constructor. So I'll just give it 2 and 5. All right. Now, I want to now is when I can now call my add, because this add now is attached to this class. So in this case, this add has become a method, because this add cannot work on its own. It can only work when I call it on an instance of this class. But on its own, it cannot work. So in this case, it is a method. But this one on its own, it will work. So in this case, is a function. So anytime you are having a function inside an object, just know or understand that that is actually a method. So this one we are even talking about a class. Now, okay, what if we just have something as simple as this? Let's even say maybe we have const student, right, equal to, we have an object, and then we say for this, okay, let's even use the calculate, calculate. All right, and then we can say maybe num1 is 3, abi num2 is, let's say, maybe 5, and then we'll come here, we'll now say add, right? So this add now, we say, sorry, this should be comma, sorry, right? So we say add, and this add now, we now say return num1 plus num2, right? Of course, hope you know I'm missing something here. So who can tell me what am I missing here? Of course, I'm missing the this keyword. So here now, as this one is, all right, if I want to call this function add, I need to first use calculate, then dot add. That is the only way I can call this add function. This add function cannot work independently. It's always dependent on my object calculate. So it's the same thing. So this is a function, whereas this is a method. And mind you, can give it a name. I can decide to give it a name. So in this case now, if I want to call it, I can't call it with add again. I have to call it with the name I've given it, which of course in this case is calc. But I can still decide not to give it a name and just use it as it is. So in that case, I can call it just as it is. So I don't know, do you now get the difference between a method and a function? A function exists on its own. Declare it with your function keyword, or if you don't want to use function keyword, remember we have our arrow function, right? So we can always use an arrow function to do our declaration, right? So calling it, we just call it straight up with the name, no issue. Our method will always be dependent on the object in which it is being created inside of. So if I remove this one, the add this one will go and be calling will be this one here. You understand? And that's why you see saying here not a number, because what is expecting these two parameters, because this is the only thing it can recognize. It can't access this one. But for this one now, to be able to access it, we need to call it with the name of its object. So Jethro, do you understand the difference between functions now?
Yeah, now from your explanation, as you said, in summary, is A function inside an object is a method.
Beautiful.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just it. Don't mind me. Sometimes you hear me say we not create a function. You
Because
know,
some of the thing I can't say these functions and methods waiting they actually because in if you don't know how to use them in context, you might miss
yeah.
the whole thing. That's what
Yes,
I think. Yes.
yes, you're actually correct. You're actually correct. Very, very correct. So that's actually the difference between the two. All right. So what else do we have? We have looked at private fields and method. We have looked at static. I talked about get and set. All right. But then I think that was when you guys left the call. I don't know whether it's battery or data. I know it could be
I'm on a network. Network.
network. Okay, okay. So should I at least we did super together, right?
Yeah, we did
Yes,
super.
yes. Okay, beautiful. So I'm looking at, so should I come over the explanation of getters and setters once more, or as you guys watch the video? Okay, you guys watch the video, right?
Can you
Yeah,
just explain it?
Okay,
briefly. Yeah.
okay, let me just explain it. So now getters and setters, just like it says here, classes can have getters and setters for accessing and modifying properties. When you say, I say this allow you to define methods that behave like properties, providing controlled access to private variables. So just like when they say get, you are collecting information. When they say set, you are modifying information. So that is what the two of them are meant for. Now let's go to our code. Let's check this. Now, let's say I have a class of course, rectangle. Let me just name it rec, all right? And then of course it will have a constructor. And then this constructor will take width and height, all right? And then of course we have to bind that width, and we have to also bind the height. So now we can decide to say we want to, of course, area. When we talk of area parameter, we are expecting it to give us the area, and we're expecting it to give us the parameter. So in that case, we can use the get method. So we'll now say get area, of course. So what is get area? Get area now is going to return this dot h dot w times this dot h. That's the area. Also, we can also get the perimeter, because what we are expecting is a value. All right. We are not setting, we just want it to give us the value. So we can return bracket 2 times this dot w, then plus bracket 2 times this dot h. That is for get. So if we come here, right, already we are telling it to get the area. So in calling this area and perimeter, of course, first we have to create an instance. All right. So we say const rec equal to new rec, and then we pass the two size. Let's say 5 and no, not 56. So 56 is big. So 5 and 7. All right. So we can check whether our rec have been created. Oh, console.log. So look at our rec have been created with a width of 5 and height of 7. So now let's now call this area and perimeter. So we're going to have rec, that's the instance, dot area. Now we don't need to call it like a function again. Why? If we call it like this, it's not going to work. All right, you understand? So now we can now call it with just rec dot area. Because of what? We have already given it get. So it's expecting that once we call area, what we are expecting is a value. Now, look at what we have here, even before we call it. Are you seeing we have our area and our perimeter already inside of our prototype? This one is known as prototype, this proto. You understand? So this proto is more like telling you all the properties inside of your rectangle. So of course, it's telling us that it has a constructor function. Obviously, we have a constructor function. Then it's telling you that it has area and perimeter. Now, why is it giving us the value of area and perimeter? It's because already here we have declared those two functions as a get function. Now, once we remove get from those functions, that's all. You will not be able to find it here. And then for us to access it here, we need to call it like a normal function before we'll be able to access it. But once we now bring in our get, we are telling our class that give us what these values are. And that's why you see we are having it here, 35, 24. So to get the value, we don't need to call it like a function. You just need to rec.area, and then you can see it's giving us the value. And then to get the perimeter too, rec.perimeter. Now this is for getters. Okay, what if already, we already have this, right? What if we now want to change the value of this instance? Like, we don't want to create another instance. So it's this same instance that we want to correct, because there's a possibility after creating a student, maybe the student name, the student might come back and say, I've done change of name, or I've done change of age. Can you please update my record? So of course, it will not make sense for you to go and start creating new record when there's already an existing record. So that set is what can help us to change anything we want to change. So let's say, for instance, we want to be able to change both the width and height that was passed in when creating this. We want to be able to change it. So in this case, we can come now. That's when we now use our set. So what are we setting? We want to set the what? What should we call it? Size. Let's say set size. And this set size now, we are taking in width and we are taking in height. So this width height, once we take it from this size method, what we are doing, we now want to rebind it to the width of our object, of our class, and also rebind it to the height of our class. This is the standard one for this class, W and H. So you have to use the same thing here too. Why this one is gotten from here? So if I like here, if here is width, I'm going to write here in full. If here is height that I'm going to write in full. All right. So what is happening here is that I'm actually changing the original value of this instance. So now, if I want to change the original value of this rec, it's just for me to come and call. And why is this one giving us error? Okay, sorry. What is it saying? Okay. A set accessor must have exactly one formal parameter. It mustn't be one now. 15.2, okay. One parameter. Should be able to have two now. Okay, you are right. Actually, it accepts a single parameter, but this time around we want two variables. So in that case, we are just going to group it inside an object. So either we group it inside an object or an array. You understand? So here I'll have my W and my H. So in this case now, all right, you can see we no longer have any issue. So take note, the set takes in just a single parameter. So if you want to have more than one parameter, just put it inside of an object, just like what I did here. So take note of that. So here, my W is here, and then my H is also here. All right. So now, rec dot, if I want to now change the size, the H, W, and H of this instance here, this rec instance, is just for me to call my rec dot. Now the set, what is the name of the set variable? Is size. All right, dot size equal to, how now passing the size for it. Now what will be the size? Here I gave it 5 and 7. Here let me give it 10 and let's say 4. All right, so what is he saying here? Unexpected token. 26, 14. Rec dot size 10 and 4. So which one is unexpected here again? Let's confirm. Let's
Or is
confirm.
it the curly braces?
Oh, I just see where the issue is. It's an object, right? So we need
Okay.
to be strict with our naming. If we just pass it value, it will not work. We need to be strict with our naming. So here will be W, and here should be H. You understand? Let's even try and see if array will work. Let's try to use array and see if array will give us what we want. That's one beauty of code. You try until it works. So you see, array actually works. So either you use an array, you just need either an array or an object, actually. You understand? So either you make use of an array, just like what we did here, or an object. Now, how do we know that it has updated the values? Let's recalculate our area and recalculate our perimeter. Or let's even reprint the rec itself. That's after making these changes, let's reprint it. Now, has it changed or not from what we have here? It has changed. In the original one, width is 5, height is 7. But in this new rec that we updated the value, width is 10 and height is 4. Just like how we indicated. Then we can even check for the area. Rec dot area. You can see 40 because length times breadth, 10 times 4 is 40. And then rec dot perimeter, of course, to get the perimeter. Of course, 28 because 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 4 is 8. 20 plus 8, you have 28. So either you use, remember here, it takes in just one single parameter. So either you use an object or array. If you are using an object, know that in making the changes here, you have to take note of the parameters, width, and also the height in this our own case. So what you are going to follow is actually what we have here. So take note of that. So any question? Are there any question?
So, sir, the set doesn't give us okay, it prevents us from going to the constructor to make a change. Is that what it means?
Okay. Number one, yes. Number two is what is helping us to do, because once you create an instance, right, there's no way you can actually change the original value which you use. I don't know if you get it, because this constructor function only works once, and that's when you are creating your instance. Once your instance is being created, you can't call constructor function again on that particular instance. So what set will help you do is not only this value you can actually change with set. You understand? Let's assume that we have a variable here. Let's say we name it. Let's just say, okay, name. All right. Let's just say name. Let's say Jethro. All right. Let's just say name Jethro. All right. And then let's say I want to now change this name from it being Jethro. Although this one is more direct, given the fact that it's not a constructor. You understand? So this one is actually more direct. So I'll copy this name and then I'll bring it inside or into this constructor. So now let's say I want to now change what this name is. Right? I want to change what this name is. Now in this case, constructor is called only once, as at when the instance is being created. So once I create my instance, to go back and change the name will not be actually possible. So the only possibility is to make use of this my set. So I can decide to come and then say set name. And set name you would do what? Take in a single parameter. Here, this one will just need name to change just one parameter. And then what I want to change is this dot name equal to name. So I want to now update this one inside here, maximum call stack size exited. God, I beg. What are these people saying like this? Range error. Hey, see me see error.
Abi, we've exceeded using name. Maybe if we move one place that has
So let's put end and see if it will work. Not true.
yeah, because they said maximum. That means you've been calling name. You don't plenty.
Okay. Now, wow. Oh, it is well. Oh. Thank you for that. You see, but as developers on the fix error. Sharp. All right. So now to change the name from Jethro to another thing, we can come here. And then, of course, we have our set. And what is the name of our set? Name. So we just come here and call the instance. The instance is what? Rec dot name equal to, we'll now give it the new name we want. So let's say Yunus. All right. So now let's check. Let's console.log our rec and check if actually any changes have been made to the name. All right. So the name no change. Okay, this dot n, because we have actually renamed it to n, not name. Remember, I said what is here. That's what is binded by this is what you always make use of. So here, this is where we are having issues. It's supposed to be this dot n, not this dot name. So now we should be able to see the change. So you can see it has now changed to Yunus from Jethro. So did you get the whole concept of using set now? Okay, all right. So let me see. So this one that everybody have just japa from the class. Let's look at a module. All right. So let's look at a module. So see all these plenty stories. Let's just read it, Sha. So modules in JavaScript are a way to organize and encapsulate code, making it easier to manage, reuse, and maintain. Modules allow you to split your code into separate files, each with its own scope, and import only what you need from those files into other part of your application. This approach helps prevent global scope pollution and enable the creation of more structured and scalable application. Modules provide several benefits. One, encapsulation. Each module has its own scope, reducing the chance of variable conflict. Two, code reusability. Modules allow you to reuse code across different files and projects. Three, maintainability. Breaking down code into smaller, manageable parts makes it easier to maintain and debug. Four, lazy loading. Modules can be loaded only when needed, improving performance. So, all this story. What are they trying to tell us?
So before you go forward,
Yes.
these modules, right? We
Yes.
did something with us, one of the mentors in
Okay.
CSS.
Okay.
Is it called block element modifier with SCSS SAS? And
Okay.
then we did some importations of mixins, extends. So from the definition I just saw, so that was
Yes.
what came to my mind.
Your mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anytime you hear they say module, is the normal, all those normal code files we used to create. We can convert all of them to modules. Now, by converting them to modules, it simply means if we need to use something that is inside of one file in another file, what we just need to do is to import it inside where we are needing it and then make use of it. So this module is in this JavaScript session, you might not see the use of it that much, but by the time you enter React, in fact, almost everything in React is import. Either you are importing or you are exporting. Importer, exporter. So you have to just be doing the two like that. All right. So module syntax in JavaScript. So if you are talking about module in JavaScript, you always have the export and you always have the import. Now, the export is you are trying to say, I want this part of my code to be available for outside use. So anything you export, it means a file, a JavaScript file that's outside of that particular file can actually make use of it. And for you to make use of anything from another file, you need to first import that thing. But for you to be able to import anything, that thing must have been exported from inside where it is created. You understand? So it's just like if you want to buy a phone from outside the country, they need to first export it to your country before you can now import it to your own country. If they don't export it, there's no way you can import it. So that is how this importing and exporting works with this module. All right. So now, exporting from a module. To export from a module, you can either export the named export, as you can see here. Here, what they are doing is that they are exporting the value of pi. That's why I see export const pi. Here, they are exporting the function add. Why here, look at it. Default export allow you to export a single value from a module. So now, this default, what it does is to export just one particular thing from the whole of that thing. So that's when export default is coming to play. Why you can use export to export as many as possible. So why importing, you can see different ways of importing. To import multiple things from a particular file, you put all what you want to import inside this curly bracket. And you can import, and as you import, you name using the as. So you can see here, we are importing add, but we are not just importing it as add, we are importing it as sum. So this as changes the name of your import. So here we are just importing a single thing from the file greeting, right? And here by asterisk, you look at asterisk. Asterisk simply means import everything. So once you use asterisk, it's going to import everything in that file and make it available for you for use in your main file. So now let's go to code. This one, of course, we have to make use of VS Code. Because we are creating multiple files. For this one, although we can only create multiple tabs, and it's not as if the tabs are actually working together. I doubt if they are. Let me even confirm. Okay, okay, let me move this code. All right. So what's our okay, set and get, right? So set and get. All right.
So are we getting the code via Discord channel, or how do we get it?
Yes, the link. There was one class that I forwarded a link. So is that
Yes,
same link? Is
me
that
have
same link?
misplaced
But
that
I'm
link.
still
I see.
no problem. I will still forward it to the sub mentor. So they'll definitely forward it to you guys.
Okay, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So here now. Good. I've opened this. So I believe you all see my screen, right? Okay. So I just want to make sure of something. Good. So all right. So I will just reopen it, and then I'm closing this one. Good. So now, okay. So what we have now, I want to create two different files because I want to show you how module actually work. I want to create two different files here. So the first one, I will name it math.js. The second one, I will name it app.js. All right. So now in this math.js, I'm going to define all my functions for addition. Then in this app.js, that's when I will now do my calculation. So now this is a module. This is a module. In as it is here, it is a normal JavaScript file. All right. To make it a module here, I have to rename it from .js to JSM. Is it JSM? I can't even remember. I be GMS. See, let's just use JS first. So now I have app.js, I have math.js. So just like I said, we'll do all the mathematical here, the function, the sum, the add, the subtract, the divide, and the multiply. Then here will now be where we are now going to be calling them. All right. So for this math now, I'm going to have so let's say, of course, the first function is our add. So remember, since I'm going to use whatever is inside math.js, that's what I'm going to be using inside my app.js. That means anything I'm doing in this my math.js, I need to be exporting it. Right? So here I'll say export function what? Add. All right. This function will take in two parameters, a and b, and then of course it's going to return a and b. All right. The next one, export function subtract, it will return subtraction. Then the next one, export function multiply, and then finally export function divide. Of course. Now, since we have exported all of them, we have exported our function add, exported subtract, exported multiply, exported divide. It means now we can now come and import all of these things inside here. So to import all of these things from this place where we export them to this place, look at what the document is saying about importing. So import the name. Of course, we're importing multiple things from. So this is how you do it. So here we'll come now here, right? And then I'm going to import. Of course, we're importing more than one thing. So I'll put all of them inside these curly braces. So I'm importing now. The first thing I have here, sorry, excuse me. So sorry for the breakage. All right. So now we are importing add, subtract, multiply, and divide. All right. So here now I'll have add, subtract, multiply, and divide. All right. Now where am I importing these things? I'm importing it from. Now what is the name of my file? Now let me ask a question. Why do we have this dot slash at the front of math.js? Why?
Yes, we are using dot and slash because we want to access the file path. Correct? Correct.
Okay, beautiful. So now this math and this app, they are in the same location, file location. All right. Look at it. Let me access it from my terminal. print working directory. Look at ls, look at both of them are in the same file path. So by using dot, I'm trying to say get a file called math.js. You can see that is inside of this same directory. So let's say, for instance, inside of this directory, I created a new folder. And then I call this folder utils. Then it's inside this folder utils, I now have my math.js. Or instead, I have calc.js. All right. And this calc.js too, of course, export. Let's say I have everything here. The same things that are here. That's what I have here. But in this case, this one now accept 3 numbers. Let's say it accepts 3 parameters. Right? Sorry. I don't know. A divided by B divided by C. Ha! Now go work so. We'll just say A times B. A times C divided by B. So now, if you look at what we have here, you can see that if we want to make use of, okay, no, let's name this one. Add 3, subtract 3, multiply 3, and then divide 3. So if I want to import everything, what is inside this calc, want to import it inside this app, of course, we'll still make use of the import statement. We are importing multiple. Now, since what we want to import is everything inside here, we don't need to even do this. We just need to use our asterisks. You understand? And then what are we importing? Now we are importing from, now looking at what we have, calc is not in the same file location as app and math. In fact, we can confirm it using our terminal. ls. You can see this is app, this is math. But calc now is now inside of these utils. How do we know? If we do ls utils, you can see calc inside of utils. So in this case, if we want to now import it, we are going to import it from, of course, dot slash. Now inside of this directory, where app is, the name of the folder that is in the same file location as app is the utils. So we will now say utils. Then inside of utils, that's when we will now see calc. So /utils /calc dot js. Then we now have our semicolon. So do we get that? Beautiful. Why is this one showing us 0? As. Okay, so they want us to actually rename it. They want us to rename it. So import everything as calc from this. So these people, wow. Then Sabio. So let's just do this our normal. I don't know why they're supposed to allow us use this as it is. Let's confirm from our note. Import this as. Okay. So that means we need to use as. Anyways, let's go back as calc from here. So now, if we want to call add, it's just for us to come here and say add. Of course, let's use console.log so that we'll be able to see it from our browser console.log console, right? So of course, we'll console log add, passing the 2 variable, subtract, passing the 2 variable, multiply, passing the 2 variable, divide, passing the 2 variable. Then for this one now, remember we are importing everything as calc. So to access any of them, calc have to come first before the name of it. So let's say to access this add 3 now, it's going to be console.log calc. How is this thing blocking this thing? The name that we are importing it as calc, then dot the function we want add 3, right? Add underscore 3. Now add 3 is taking in 3 parameters, 2, 8, 2, or let's say 4. All right. So the same thing with the rest too, for subtract 3, multiply 3, and divide 3. So now this is what we have. Of course, hope you know, if we go to our browser, we will not see anything. Now let me ask you a question. Why is it that if we go to our browser right now, with all these things we have done, why is it that we will not be able to see anything? Okay. Now, for we to be able to see anything here, number one, we have to first of all do what? We have to create an HTML file. So I'll create a HTML file, index.html, and then document, I'll just name this one calculator, title, and then my script. I'm going to bring in my script here. And of course, the script I'm bringing in shouldn't be calculator. It should be this one, app.js, because that's my entry point. So app.js, that's the one I want it to run. That's the one I want to run on the browser, right? And of course, I have to add my defer. So title, let me just give it body. Let me just h1, h1. All right, calculator. So now let me load it on my browser. All right, so I think it has opened already. So of course, what we are looking for, so of course what we are looking for should be in our console.log. All right, so where is console? So this console, and then what are we having? Live reload enabled. We are not getting anything. Okay, so I think where the issue is coming from is that I saw somewhere where we have to add module. I think it's even here, and we have to add module. I think it's here. Let me confirm. So we have to add this. Say for modules to work in the browser, you need to set the type attribute of script tag to module. So we have to add this type module. All right. So I'll come here and then I'll add type module. So let's confirm. So is it working now or not? It's working. So you can see. So this is how you work with module. So everything concerning module is just import, export, and then for anyone you are importing, you should make sure you know the exact file. What are they calling it? The exact file location, because if we mistakenly miss this file location now, like this thing will not work the way it's supposed to work. You understand? So you have to be cognizant of the exact file location. So this is how to export, and you must not really export like this. There are different ways of exporting. If I like, I can just, what I'll just do, I'll just remove this export, or remove the export here for all of them, right? Then I'll just come at the end here and then use export and then put all of them here inside an object. So by doing this, I will be exporting all of them all at the same time. So either you go by individual export like this, right? Or you go by collective export like this. It's still very okay. Either you go by individual imports like this, or importing everything at once. Where is it? Importing everything at once like this. So any other question? So if we go back to our browser, you can see it's still working as it should. So any question on this? Okay.
Boss, if you like, say now only me they collect the heat. Oh, voila, voila, voila. But sir, to be very honest, I want us. Okay, let's drift a little from what we have at hand, and then let's actually talk.
Okay, no problem. Can talk.
Yes, yeah. What I understand is that people are different. Like people are, we have individual differences, right? And
Yes.
then this bootcamp is amazing, like from the mentors, from the curriculum and all. But from few interactions that I've had with my colleagues,
Yes.
I think some of them cannot meet up to the pace because number one, most of us, let me speak, including me, I had zero knowledge of web development before the bootcamp,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I know how tedious it is for me to go over and over the
And
stuff before I understand. So I think some people are complaining. Some have even left. Some have told me the truth. They cannot cope because the curriculum is too fast.
mm,
And then some again, it takes a lot of doing it over and over. Although that is the normal way to get it.
yes,
So,
yeah,
but I think in a day, we do
yeah,
cover a lot that even if you want to go back and then still read, you still
yeah.
have tasks to do and all. So I'm speaking for myself. I think, you know,
Yes, I understand. All right. Now, that's one thing with, so is that's one thing with boot camp. All right. I myself have participated in quite a number of boot camps. I always say that I participated in boot camps. I've participated in programs, at least ALX. All right. And then one thing I realize is there is no single program, most especially there's no single boot camp that is not fast, that is not fast paced. You understand? So now there's no single program, boot camp in particular, that is not fast paced, and there's no single program that is not fast paced, unless the program is the one that they just give you material like W3 schools, and they will be like, okay, learn on your own. Now the problem with learning on your own is that very few people can actually settle down and discipline themselves to go over and over and over again and say, okay, every day I'm giving this 2 hours, every day I'm giving this 4 hours. You understand? But what bootcamp is going to do is that number one, okay, it will give you mentors that will guide you. Those mentors in turn will give you assignments, they will give you classwork and quiz for you to do. You understand? They will guide you through the curriculum, because I'm telling you, if you say you want to go and pick JavaScript and learn, like the things that you'll be seeing there. But then these mentors understand what is relevant to some extent, most especially at your level, and what is not. And then that's what they are going to give you. All right. Now, humanly speaking, is not easy. And humanly speaking, you will not always get it right the first time. Neither will you get it right the second time. You might not get it the third time. In fact, even up to the 10th time, you might not get it. But mind you, even the first time you tried that you didn't get it, something is happening. It's just that you don't know. It's more like I go to fetch water, and then I'm just seeing drop of water, one drop, one drop. Ah, ah. In my mind, I'll be like, wait, it could be this one. This thing they waste my time. But hope you know, if I leave my cup there and that drop is falling, is falling, is falling. By the time I come back like 5, 6 hours later, hope you know is either the cup will be half or it must have even full the cup, depending on the size of the cup. You understand? So that's why even if it gets to a point, see, I know how many times I did JavaScript. That's why you see, anytime I'm teaching you guys, I try my as much as possible best to show you guys that Even me, I'm not perfect. At least, thank God, sometimes it's you guys that used to correct me. I intentionally do that. Not that I cannot prepare everything and make it perfect before coming to class. I can do that and you'll be like, this guy know they make mistake. Now, Lord, no. I choose to do this so that you know that, see, this web development of a team we are talking about is a journey, all right? Officially, I started programming 2021, right? I started programming. A friend of mine gave me a course on JavaScript, Udemy course. Yes, I did HTML, CSS, and Java. I still have the Udemy course on my system. I did HTML, CSS. I was very happy. God, boy, this thing is sweet. I entered JavaScript. Story change. Oh. I was not like, hey, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. You sure say this programming are for me? I had to reach out to the guy. I said, guy, how far? This thing, it be like if I do am, it go there as if I understand that. Once I sleep, wake up, it be like say village people go come out from my head. So boy, that's how the guy now told me that actually for a start, that's how programming is. So mind you, what is happening in your brain is that your brain is creating patterns. Is creating patterns. Did I get it 2021? No, I did not. Did I give up? I did not give up. I continued. 2022, I got to find out about the Odin project because I now realize that Kai, just watching videos only might not do the work for me. Everybody is different. Yes. So I now looked at the Odin project. You read, they give you exercises to do and all of that. I started the Odin project August 2022. That 2021, I was not even really too serious because some days, instead of me to code, I'll go and be watching Naruto. I believe some people knows Naruto here. And then Naruto is very sweet. So the time that there's light that's supposed to code, I'll go and watch Naruto. Say, I beg, I'll code tomorrow. That tomorrow it might be after 1 week. I'll now come back to the code. I'll now code like 2-3 days. I'll now go back to Naruto. So the inconsistencies were too much. 2022 August, I now decided the Odin project, we die here with you. So I started the Odin project. I did the HTML, did the CSS. I started JavaScript gradually. Boom. One of my friend came. He told me about ALX. And I told you that, Oga, ALX, 70 hours per week. I no fit. I told him I can't. So that's how he did. How he managed to even convince me, I don't even know. I now decided to do ALX. I started reading ahead. So I started ALX January. February, I lost my dad. That's 2023. Yeah, started January 2023. February, I lost my dad. And then light issues and other issues that came up. I left ALX. All right. So leaving ALX, I was like, I went back to the Odin project. Of course, I won't give up. One thing with me is that I don't give up on something. It's either that thing bow, but me bow is not possible. So I left ALX. I started the Odin project. So by February, March, ALX now re-strategized. They're now like, okay, now we have made it possible for anybody to defer in case you have missed. Because all through the month of February and March, I missed because of my dad's death and other things. So I missed. So they were like, you can actually restart from the beginning. I was very happy. But I knew that there was a challenge that I had to overcome. And what is that challenge? Because I wanted to get the very best out of the program. Light challenge. So I had to get a very small solar, something that can help me charge my laptop, at least, even if there's no NEPA. So that was what I did. I struggled. At the end, I was able to get one. You understand? Like that. So that is how my journey started. So they actually started with C. They started with C, then they moved to Python. I don't think we spent up to 3 months with JavaScript. You understand? So what am I trying to say here? Does that mean for you to understand these things the way I do, you have to do ALX? No. Mind you, there are many other people that did ALX that don't still understand some of these things, right? The most important thing is that you don't give up. Why didn't those people that do ALX understand it? Is because one way or the other, they gave up. You understand? So what you are going to do, or what you advise your fellow students, I believe probably on Saturday, just encourage them to come around on Saturday so that I'll just speak to the rest of you guys. This thing is not a day something. It's something you keep on doing over and over and over again. Now, let me even open my system and show you the projects I've worked on so that you will know that it's not as if this thing is something that, oh boy, now magic. Now, all these folders you are seeing, all of them are projects. Some are even, okay, like this ALX backend JavaScript. Let me even open it so that you see what is there. Now, everything you are seeing here is a project. If I enter this one now, all these files are code written inside of them. Let me even open so that you see what I'm saying. So you can see this is a code using try and catch. All right. And then all these other files too, all of them are code. All these ones you are seeing, all of them are projects. All these ones. Some project I worked on personally, some project I contributed to, and all of that. You understand? You can see rock, paper, scissors. This is a rock, paper, scissors game I built. So you can even see Python too. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that you might think nothing is happening, but the reality is that something is actually happening. So you take it gradually. The one you know you can do, you do. And don't always do what you know you can do. Always attempt what you know you cannot do. That is the only way you can grow. All right, that is the only way. If I open my GitHub, all right, let me open my GitHub. So I'm just showing you all these ones so that you know that this thing is not actually a day something. All right, it's not actually a day something. So look at my GitHub, look at my repositories. I have 114 repositories. In some of these repositories, I have several folders, code folders inside of it. So this is a project I'm using to learn Rust. You can see 0 to prod. This one is something I contributed to. Yeah, this one is something I solved a problem in one particular language, and then I put all the solutions there. So you can see them, various projects. You can see them. You can see them in different languages. You can see them. So you can see. So you don't, it's something that you don't have a choice. You have to keep building. You have to keep building. You have to keep building. Force yourself. Do things you know. If you know something is hard, look at it in the face and say, I'm coming for you. And you'll be shocked. You have all the tools you need. You have materials. You have ChatGPT. You have everything you need. You understand? So I don't know if you can encourage them, and if you can also encourage them to come on Saturday, so we can actually have more like, I'll call it a round table talk, you understand, so that everybody will speak his mind and all of that. Even me, during my days of growth, there are people that encouraged me. There are people that helped me, that made me to realize that this thing, if you keep on going, you get it. And I'm grateful I did not give up. I'm grateful and I continued. You understand? Because even if they feel this boot camp is fast paced, if they go to another boot camp, they will be shocked. Like, no single boot camp that is not fast paced. No single one. You understand? It's just that move at your pace. If your pace is 10 steps, be moving at 10 steps. If your pace is 2 steps, be moving at 2 steps. Person wey climb bus, person wey climb aeroplane, where did they travel go Lagos, they go still enter Lagos. The only problem be say the one where they climb car, if you do 24 hours, the one where they climb plane, if you do 40 minutes, but at the end of the day, they go jam for Lagos. So that's the most important thing. You understand? So so you guys are trying, honestly. You guys are trying, and I will advise you guys that you should keep it up that way. All right. So thank you for opening up. I believe on Saturday we'll have a more round table talk, probably after or before the project we'll be building.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. So take care, everybody. Our time is up. All right. Thank you.